All the content contained in this webcast is for informational purposes only. The investments and strategies contained in this webcast may not be suitable for you. Please consult your own independent financial advisor before making any investment or trading decisions. Good morning, traders and investors around the world, and welcome to Tuesday's edition of premarketinfo.com, where we prepare you for the most important hour of the day, the first hour. And this first hour, Dennis, is littered with earnings releases.
Lots of earnings reports here, Joel. Goldman Sachs was leading the charge here about an hour ago. They're the first ones to report here, Joel, and they're trading down a little bit.
Yeah, Dennis, really, you got to focus on this 115 area. We've been talking about it for a couple days. Someone has definitely made a stand here at that level. 114.75 has been the low in the pre-market. That coincides with all those lows at 115. You know how we love those double, triple, quadruple bottoms. Did slice through it one day at 114.50. But you really got to focus on this 115 if it gets down to that area. Coming back on the upside, Dennis, I mean, it is down a tad, but it is a $1.25 or $1.20 away from yesterday's high. And it did spike up to that level when the earnings are announced. So I think between 115 and 120, Dennis, this is going to be like you're going to just be throwing darts.
Pretty defined trading range there, and the pre-market kind of showing it as well, Joel. Stock sold off a bit. It rallied initially. They raised the dividend. They beat on the numbers, but they had a few cautious comments saying the client activity in certain areas was still relatively weak. I think that's what spooked the market. Knocked it down right to that support in the pre-market that we had talked about. Got as low as 114.75, so call that 115, and I would call that major support now. But the stock has rallied nicely. It's trading 117.11 right now, so we're $2, away from where we were just, a half an hour ago. If it continues in rally mode, I think this range is pretty defined. You have those couple tops right around 120 there, so that could, maybe put a lid on it. So I would probably try to trade it in that range. Obviously, if it breaks out of that range, all bets are off.
Okay, U.S. Bancorp, sticking with some of the financials here, they had some decent earnings.
Yeah, U.S. Bancorp came out here. The stock rallied up. I don't know, maybe you can get the high there. I didn't jot it down, but I think I've seen it go as high as 31.81. 31.16 is where it closed at. It's trading 31.55 right now. So U.S. Bancorp is getting a lift off their earnings. I mean, $32 is huge on this thing. It topped out there, got there through there a couple of times, cut through there in mid-March, but really this 32 has put a lid on it. I would expect you'll get some pretty good resistance there, probably some institutional selling pressure at 32. And when you have the institutional sellers, the high-frequency guys are right in front of them. So I'd imagine some 31.90 high-frequency resistance as well.
31.83 was that pre-market high,
okay,
Dennis,
so
that you're referring to.
So that kind of coincides with the area, a little bit below the area we're talking about, but that whole 31.90 to 32 area, I think would provide some pretty good resistance there, Joel. Citigroup too, actually, they are in the news. They didn't report earnings, but Royal Bank was saying that they think Citigroup's a buy at these levels. That's giving the stock a pretty decent lift in the pre-market here, Joel. 34.60 is where Citigroup is after closing at $34. So it's actually coming up to, there's three highs there right in that area. You would probably point those out too. 34.87, 34.66, and 34.70. So we're coming very close to where those three highs were. Obviously, if we can break up above there, then it opens up a little bit, but that might be your first area of resistance. What's your take on Citi?
Well, looking at the Citigroup, it's topped out in the pre-market at 34.64, Dennis, and of course it does coincide with those three highs that we were that you had just mentioned. Boy, Dennis, you're getting good at this. You don't even need me on the show anymore.
Take all your peace away.
Yeah, the whole number theory probably at 35, but this thing looks like it's raring to go here. I mean, I don't put a lot of faith in Royal Bank upgrade, but I do take stock in the fact that we're breaking over a triple top here. Going back to the U.S. Bancorp too, Dennis, you have the same kind of situation there. You had three highs right at the 31.40 level. We are breaking above that in the pre-market, so you're kind of looking at a low-risk buy here. If it gets much away from that 31.50 level, it's probably not a good idea to own it. But the last thing I want to point out about this U.S. Bancorp, Dennis, and we've talked about this in some other issues, how ahead of earnings, how there's position squaring. People that have had a nice run, want to take some profits. Well, you see almost three identical ranges in the last 3 days in the U.S. Bancorp, the highs and the lows. So looks like it's geared to break out to the upside.
Yeah, it could, and I think, obviously the 32 area that we talked about is going to be its first test. But so far, so good in the pre-market. At least it's getting a lift. I mean, if this thing started to sell off, this 3150, I kind of think this is a swing number. I actually see some institutional size there too, Joel. So if we can open up above that 3150, then I think maybe we can make a run for that whole 32 area that we were just talking about. But if for whatever reason we weaken here in the next hour and we open below 3150, then I think that area might provide you some resistance. So I think 3150 is a good swing number there, Joel.
We agree. Okay. Coca-Cola. I guess they're selling more Coke than I thought they would.
Yeah, I guess they are, Joel. Coca-Cola is getting a lift in the pre-market. A pretty decent lift for Coke. I mean, low beta stock. It's trading 73.28 right now, so up about 80 cents from the 4 o'clock close at 72.44. We're kind of getting in the middle of this range, though, kind of almost in the middle of nowhere. If we get up to the 74, I think you got some pretty decent resistance just above 74 there, where those three highs were. But in the 73.28, I almost feel like it's kind of in the middle of nowhere. There's huge support if the stock ever sold off. That 71.80, we had those four lows back there. I think it's going to get great support down there. But as we're rallying in here, you're kind of in the middle of 73 to 74. I'm kind of sitting on my hands until I can either get up to that 74 area or starts falling back down to the 72 area.
Exactly, Dennis. The 72 major support. We talked about that for a few days. Doesn't look like it's going to get to that levels. In the pre-market, 73.40 has been the high, so we have to keep an eye on that level. Above that, Dennis, you'll surely have resistance at 74, 74.08 to 74.20, where all those highs were. But Dennis, Coca-Cola opening up 84 cents. That's a pretty big open for Coca-Cola.
It really is, Joel. 84 cents is often larger than what the whole entire day's range usually is. So wouldn't surprise me if there was some profit taking into a move like this, into an up move like this. Johnson & Johnson, Joel, they reported here as well. The stock actually getting a little bit of a lift too. 64.36 is where it's trading right now after closing at 63.98. So Johnson & Johnson getting above that 64 area we talked about again. It's holding up above there. Obviously 64 I'd use for a swing number still. And if you get up here, it's starting to open up a bit. What do you think, Joel? I'm kind of wishy-washy on this one.
Yeah, we kind of got faked out there, Dennis. A couple closes under 64, and then it rallied yesterday. I think you're going to have some real problems here at 64.50, 64.56, that area. 64.69's been the 4-day high. I think it's really going to thicken up before you get to that 65 number. So keep an eye on that. Looking at the pre-market activity, you have topped out a 64.49. I mean, there's big resistance here. I don't look at this thing just to gap and go. I think you'll probably get a little bit of a sell-off, and if it come back near settlement or that 64 level, it'll probably be look like a good buy.
A few other ones here reporting, some smaller ones. We've got actually here. Intel is going to report after the bell here, Joel. I was going to say Intel reported, but they're not reporting until after the bell. But let's talk about Intel, because it's such a market driver here, Joel, and it's so close to its 52-week high. I mean, here's a stock that a lot of other tech stocks have sold off, but Intel just doesn't seem to go down, and quietly yesterday made a new 52-week high again at 28.55. I mean, this stock has really been a source of strength for the NASDAQ, despite all the other tech stocks coming significantly off their highs. This one's right there, Joel.
Yeah, we talked about, we'll just roll the tape from yesterday, Dennis. If it can break above this area, 28.50, 28.55, there's really not a lot. I mean, you have to go to the monthlies to look for resistance in this, and going back way back until July of 2005, it traded at 28.84, so you even have to go farther back to find some. Yeah,
I just went on a 7-year chart and I didn't even get back far enough. So 7 years, we got to go back here.
Yeah, I mean, you have to go back to 04, Dennis. Actually, March 04, 30.14 was a high there. So if in fact it can hold this 28.50 level. I do see a monthly high in May at 29, but it could be the next leg up. I mean, just depends on whether or not, if the number probably comes in a little bit and disappoints, you'll probably get some profit taking, and we could go back down to the 28 level. But a lot of times when a stock gets up to the resistance like this and just holds in there, it's kind of like an indicator that it wants to go through.
We're still waiting on earnings from IBM. I thought they were supposed to report this morning. Usually they report around 8. Maybe I'm mistaken. Maybe it's not till after the bell, but it's 8:30 now, and we still haven't seen IBM report. Let's just talk about it, though, before... it actually had a funny trade there yesterday. I talked about it on our blog. I was blogging about the imbalance. I had a huge sell imbalance there just right before the close, and it actually gapped the stock down. Around 3:45, the stock came out. 204.50 it was trading at. Came out with that big sell imbalance. The stock sold all the way off to 203.42, and actually it closed at 202.72, so it gapped down another 70 cents on the close. It is getting a lift, trading at 204 right now, so it's getting most of that gap down back. Still waiting on news from this one, though, so really it could probably go anywhere after the bell. What do you think, or after the earnings report, what do you think there on IBM?
Well, very well-defined support. I mean, I can't ever remember seeing 5 consecutive lows in the same, within 50 cents in IBM. I mean, that has to be unprecedented for a $200 stock. So the support is well-defined, Dennis. If this thing gets back down to that area again, it's got to go through, right, Dennis?
Well, it's 6 times the charm? I'm not sure, Joel.
I don't know. I mean, It's not GE or anything, but someone has definitely staked their claim here. Coming on the upside, I mean, yesterday we did run up, through the 4-day high, but we got the 205.97. That put a lid on it. That coincides with the April 9th high of 206.17. So between 202 and 206, I mean, this thing is just a crapshoot, and it's going to gap one way or another when the earnings are released.
First Solar, just crossing the tape here, was halted pending news. Actually is now selling off again. FSLR, the symbol on that one. This stock has just been an epic disaster this year. I mean, its stock is down since February. It was up at $50. It's at $20.88. It actually, surprisingly, it didn't look like great news. They were closing some plants and doing some cost-cutting measures. The stock just sold off to just above that $20 52-week low, but actually it's popping now. 21.55 it's trading at right now. Now 21.75. So the stock is getting a lift. Maybe they like the cost-cutting measures there on First Solar. This is a company, though, I think it just bounces all the time. And it seems to, once the, whatever the cost cutting, it seems to just start selling off again. It's a company that I probably wouldn't want to own in my portfolio. They've had just a world of hurt there, Joel, FSLR.
Yeah, I used 21.55 as a swing number. That was yesterday's high. We did get a little pop above that, and in the pre-market seems to be holding here below 21.55. This thing could settle right back down. The next resistance point after that is 22.47.
We do have Yahoo reporting after the bell here too, Joel. I just want to touch a little bit on Yahoo. A lot of our traders do like to trade this stock. I've never been a big fan of it, but let's do a quick technical on Yahoo there, Joel.
I can just, without looking at a chart, Dennis, I can tell you it's around $15, right?
You're good, man. You're good. Yeah, it's been around this $15 for 2 months.
There it is. Look at that. Well-defined. Look, all those consecutive higher lows. Finally busted out of that a couple days ago. I mean, 14.50 seems to be the bottom part of this range. Yesterday's high at 15.04 should be good resistance. I mean, I just don't know what it's going to take to move this stock, Dennis. It's just dead money.
I mean, let's look here, Joel. This is a really interesting trend we have. This trend range going on from mid-March. Obviously, this thing was topping on the 1565 area, but since then we've had numerous higher or lower highs and lower lows there, Joel, including yesterday. So wow, what a channeling range there it is. It seems to be in a 25-cent range every day, with it just drifting down a little little bit, drifting down a little bit, drifting down a little bit. Maybe it has a decent report pops out of this, but I just think there's so little interest in this stock. Even in the pre-market here, it's traded 300 shares. I remember Yahoo used to have a lot more action in the pre-market too. Seems like nobody's interested in this stock anymore. So maybe it has muted action even after it reports results there, Joel. Quickly touching on to the European banks. A lot of them are up significantly in the pre-market and overseas this morning. ING is trading up at 725. I've got Deutsche Bank trading up at, just trying to bring it up here. My internet's a little slow. 45.69, so it's up over $1.20. I've got RBS trading up. All these European banks getting a good lift. I mean, couple that with the Citigroup getting a lift off the Royal Bank basic upgrade, and with the Goldman Sachs starting to, well, it's down $1 still. But what do you think for overall for our U.S. financial situation with all that European strength?
We're kind of having a deja vu from yesterday. We had a weak close on Friday, got a pop in the pre-market, everything opened up, and then couldn't hold. So I kind of would look at that same scenario. If these stocks, a lot of them are going to be opening into the previous day's highs. If they can continue and get some follow through, I think we'll have a good up day in the market and in the financials. Same with the S&P high. That's $1.50, $1.75 below yesterday's high. So it's either we're going to open up and get this momentum and carry us through the 1375 and test that critical 1380 level, or we're just going to drift back down. But Dennis, just to close the show, what would a show be if we didn't talk about Apple Computer?
Yeah, we've always got to talk about Apple, Joel.
It got to 578.25 yesterday. We were looking for that 578 level. It looks like someone really got a little nervous in the pre-market yesterday, Dennis, and traded down to 567.50. Did you see that?
I don't have that, Joel. No, I don't have that. I wonder if that was just I have 575. But maybe my tape's wrong too. I didn't see it go quite that low. I did see it go down to 575 this morning. I'm not sure about after hours last night, so maybe there was. You have that? Do you have like multiple trades down there, Joel?
Yeah, I do.
Really?
Did Bats reopen?
The Bats reopen. Bats trade. Little pot shot at Bats, but no, I honestly don't have that on my tape. But it's sometimes hard, these after hours prints, if it's some off exchange trade. Sometimes your software will log that, mine won't. I mean, the stocks trade on 50 different places, 20 exchanges, 35 different dark pools. So it wouldn't surprise me if it did have a trade go off that low. I know it did trade as low as 575 in the pre-market though. So
okay. I'd keep an eye on 578. That's a level we've been preaching for a long time, and it looks like it's going to be a little bit of a bounce here. I got air up to 589, Dennis. So if you guys are taking a short in this anywhere, perhaps give it a shot up to this 589 level for a short. But really, I mean, the way it came down through this level, it could just go right back up. All right, Dennis, we got to get ready for the open here. S&P is currently trading at 1371. Got major resistance from the Globex high up to yesterday's high. So if we can open up and pop through that area, should have a good up day in the market. If not, look for us to drift back down into the 1365s and perhaps test the close at 1364.
That's our show for today, and we'll be back with our market update around 10:30.